During the next half hour, we'll hear from Cardinal Blase Cupich on the historic meeting in Rome on the protection of children. We'll show highlights of major Respect Life activities that took place here in Chicago. And we'll take you to Holy Name Cathedral. More than a dozen Archdiocese of Chicago youth choirs join voices in Chicago Choral Festival and Mass. Welcome to the April 2019 edition of Sanctuary. Hello, I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, Rector of Holy Name Cathedral. We begin our program with a story about a Spanish language workshop that brought together parish leaders and catechists from across the Archdiocese of Chicago. The one-day workshop highlighted the relationship between the ongoing Renew My Church and Quinto Encuentro initiatives. Here's a report from Hispanic Communications Director Al Castillo.
Our Lady of the Mount in Cicero was the location of the workshop called Renew My Church, Quinto Encuentro, and Pastoral Formation. It was organized by the Instituto de Liderazgo Pastoral at the University of St. Mary of the Lake.
We have seen the importance of Renew My Church and Quinto Encuentro for the Hispanic community. We really want to have an experience where the Hispanic community could be integrated in both initiatives in the Archdiocese, and then from there realize what is the formation that our leaders need in order to respond of what the Church or the Archdiocese is asking us in our parishes.
Renew My Church began in the Archdiocese of Chicago just a few years ago, but Encuentro dates back to the early 70s. The presenters made it clear that there should be a win-win partnership between the two initiatives.
There's a lot of goals. There's a lot of things, that are part of Renew My Church, but there's one central mission, which is to go and make disciples.
What is the experience that the Hispanic community bring into this from 1972? And what can we give? Do we have something to give? Does the rest of the church have something to welcome and say, this would help us to really renew our church? And that's what we're going to share in here, what we want to share with the people who are responsible.
One of the presenters working with Renew My Church groups around the Archdiocese says there are unique challenges in making disciples in this age of secularization.
People will look for spirituality in hundreds of ways, and they won't look at religion as the primary way. It's a different world, and so when we think about the spiritual renewal, we have to keep that in mind, because we have to think about what does it mean to be a parish, what does it mean to be a church in the context of this different age, right, this new apostolic age. And so the spiritual renewal really is around that. It's around walking with parishes, helping them, supporting them in this transition to a new way of being a parish that effectively invites or evangelizes, that effectively forms, catechizes, and that effectively mobilizes people, sends them out in this more secular world, in this age, to share, the message of Jesus Christ.
One common denominator of the workshop was to help build a future of hope for the church in Chicago.
One of my hopes is that we come out with that charismatic energy. It's not just energy. It's energy centered in Christ, and that we go out with the passion of wanting to make disciples.
My hope is that more people will become aware of what the Encuentro is, that more people who are in the process of Renew My Church will integrate the results of the Encuentro and what we received from Hispanics in the church into the process of Renew My Church.
I'm Al Castillo reporting from Our Lady of the Mount in Cicero.
Thanks, Al. Now, we turn the historic February meeting in Rome to deal with a clerical sex abuse. The Pope had asked Cardinal Blase Cupich to be one of the lead organizers of the meeting that drew bishops from around the world. Following the summit, the Cardinal shared some insights with Todd Williamson in the March edition of Catholic Chicago.
When you bring together 190 people from around the world representing each bishop's conference and also the superiors of religious communities, men and women, to be focused on the task of making sure the church is a safe place for children, for minors, you see that this is a dramatic step forward. There was real conversion that took place.
Really?
The headliners for me in making that transformation, that conversion possible, were the various victims that presented at the sessions themselves. They spoke to us from the heart of their own pain and injury, and I don't think that there was an individual in that aula, in that hall, that was not deeply moved by what they heard.
Well, and you heard from victims throughout the meetings, right?
Yes, we began the whole session on that first day, that Thursday, with victims from across the world. They were recorded ahead of time from different continents, different races and cultures, because the Holy Father wanted to make it clear that this is a global problem. It's global surely throughout the church, but also, as he mentioned in his closing remarks on Sunday, that we see the protection of children as something that's eroding throughout the world, especially with sex trafficking and all sorts of sex tourism that is going on in the world. And it is an issue in which the church needs to take a leadership and get its own house in order. That's why he wanted us to make sure that we all got it.
Yeah. What was the format of the meeting? Was it just discussion? Was it?
Yes, every day had testimony from victims like this video, but also personal testimony in which they would tell us their story. There were 3 presentations every day, and each of the days were organized around 3 themes. Responsibility, that is, bishops and superiors realizing that I personally have to be responsible. The second was accountability, that we together are responsible and accountable to each other and the people of God. And finally, that there is going to be transparency. We have to be honest and open about it. In order for all of the church, in a synodal way, as the Pope has said, to come together and own this issue as something we all should participate in solving. So it really was something that gave a lot of food for thought for people. There were 3 speakers every day on each of those topics. And I presented on the second day on accountability. But the last speech was given by a very veteran reporter who was from Mexico and who spoke very candidly to the bishops and the cardinals about making sure that people do not blame the media or the press for what's happening, that they are the ones who brought it to our attention, and that we should work hand in hand with them in trying to protect children.
The meeting produced 4 action items.
Yes.
4 things that the bishops of the world that will have in their minds going forward. What are those 4
Well, in fact,
items?
those are the first 4 that we have going forward. The first of all is that each country has to take responsibility for measures by which they enact safety programs and also accountability programs for bishops. There is going to be the development very soon of the norms from Vatican City State, which will provide a template for those. There will also be a handbook on behavior and also that helps bishops understand what their responsibilities are in caring for victims of what there's going to be, what is going to happen. Also going forward is the important role that bishops will have in a bishops' conference to make sure that they monitor how they're doing, and that we look for ways in which we are all going to hold each other responsible. So this is just the beginning, however, and the Holy Father has made it very clear that he has accepted the words of John Paul II from 2002 and made him his own. And that is that there cannot be any place in the priesthood for anyone who would harm a child, and that it is impossible to allow someone who has crossed that line to be able to be in public ministry. And so that is a commitment, of course, we've had made here in this archdiocese, but also in the United States. And now this is a global urgency that we need to attend to.
They took definitive steps here then.
Yes, yes.
All the presentations from the conference can be found at pbc2019.org. That's pbc2019.org. You can see the entire interview with Cardinal Cupich on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Just look for the March edition of Catholic Chicago. The Domestic Violence Outreach Ministry, the Archdiocese, is reaching out to high school students. At a recent presentation at Our Lady of Mercy Parish in Chicago, a licensed social worker talked to high school students about healthy relationships.
I don't know if you've ever heard of, like, when people start to date, they have a wall up, I guess, and it's like you don't let people inside, you don't let people know a lot about you. Sometimes you're very guarded, which is fine. But sometimes after you start dating somebody for a while, you start to trust them, they've earned your respect, and you might start sharing more information with them about family, past relationships, stuff like that, if you wanted to. But healthy boundaries also means that you're able to communicate your needs without fear of your partner's reaction. If you're afraid to tell your partner no, if you're afraid or worried to let your partner know that you don't want to hang out with them today and you're planning to hang out with other people, and you start to get nervous that they're going to have a bad reaction, or maybe they've had a previously bad reaction, that's where you might need to take a step back and say, okay, maybe something's going on that's a little bit unhealthy. Maybe I need to go back and communicate with them to let them know that, hey, I don't really appreciate it.
Our thanks to Father Chuck Dom, the Director of Domestic Violence Outreach for the Archdiocese, for his tireless efforts to assist parishes in setting up ministries that help people touched by domestic violence. The weather is finally warming up, but it was a cold day in January that featured 3 major Respect Life activities here in Chicago. The day began with a March for Life youth rally, followed by Mass with Cardinal Cupich at Holy Name Cathedral, and then the March for Life in downtown Chicago. Here are some highlights from our radio TV office.
Thank you to the gentleman. Give him a hand. Well done.
The way the Lord lived his life and how he understood the favor of God resting upon him, he saw himself connected to people. You know, in the Gospel of Luke, right after this scene of the baptism of the Lord, Luke gives us the genealogy of Jesus, going all the way back, not to Abraham as Matthew does, but to Adam, to show that we're all connected. The degree that we understand ourselves as connected to one another, we will understand what the pro-life agenda is about. It's about making sure that everyone has a place at the table of life, that no one is excluded. It's important for us to see how our lives are interconnected one to another in a way that allows us to make sure that everyone has a place at the table.
My name is Rihanna, and this is my daughter, Sophiana. 3.5 years ago, I was facing an unexpected pregnancy. I initially felt scared and overwhelmed. I felt like I'd be so judged. That's what led me to my first decision of abortion. I didn't know what to do next, so I went online and the first thing that came up was Aid for Women. The woman on the phone was so understanding. She offered me a free ultrasound and said that we could talk about all of my decisions. When I went to my appointment at Aid for Women and saw the ultrasound, I cried. I was able to see her whole body. She was my breathing little person. So after the ultrasound, I knew in my heart that I couldn't go through with an abortion, and I wanted to keep my baby. I don't think there's a greater love than a mother loves her child. When I see her, my whole world lights up. She showed me what love is, and she showed me what being alive is again. I'm so very grateful for my baby.
Congratulations to everyone involved in orchestrating those Respect Life activities. Stick around. We have an update on the cause for sainthood for Father Augustus Tolton, and we'll treat you to the sights and sounds of Chicago Choral Festival and Mass at Holy Name Cathedral.
Chicago Catholic, in print or online, is your go-to source for news about the Catholic Church. In-depth coverage that stretches from Chicago to the Vatican, thought-provoking articles, including columns from Cardinal Blase Cupich, photographs that inspire, reviews of movies, books, and TV columns. Go to chicagocatholic.com to subscribe. Be an informed Catholic. Subscribe to Chicago Catholic today.
Welcome back to Sanctuary. The cause for sainthood for Father Augustus Tolton has taken another step forward. The Vatican's Historical Commission has approved the official position paper, the Archdiocese of Chicago, that summarizes the candidate's life and virtue. The postulator for the cause, Bishop Joseph Perry, updated Archdiocesan staff at the Quigley Center. He talked about the significance of Father Tolton being the first African American to be ordained a Roman Catholic priest for the United States.
Having a saint so close to home and one who still speaks to Catholics and other Christians with his stamina, faith, perseverance despite huge odds against him, and his indiscriminate welcome to everyone regardless of race. And that's what the problem was back then. He tried to put people of different colors under the same roof, which was forbidden at that time in our society. And he suffered for it. White and black together was just unacceptable. That's why he turned out to be such a pioneer for faith community, church community. We hope to have his ruling on venerability made this summer, and then hopefully one of the two miracles will be chosen for his beatification. We have a new refashioned webpage that gives us all the latest happenings with the cause, including this last Monday, the news that the Theological Commission made their ruling. So it's moving along a little bit faster than we had suspected, but it's moving along. We have a cause.
You can follow Father Tolton's journey to sainthood by going to our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on the Father Augustus Tolton stamp. There was a great turnout for the 5th annual Celebrating Catholic Education Breakfast at the Hilton Chicago. Attendees heard from a strong lineup that included Catholic School Superintendent Dr. Jim Rigg, Cardinal Blase Cupich, and DePaul University President A. Gabriel Esteban. The audience was also treated to a video showing the positive results of a personalized learning program at one of our Catholic schools. Let's take a look.
Change is in the air at St. Albert the Great School in southwest suburban Burbank. Thanks to a partnership with Leap Innovations, the St. Albert School community has embraced a system of personalized learning that has inspired both teachers and students. Let's hear from those directly involved in this transformative educational experience.
This type of learning is exciting, and quite honestly, it's what educators live for. This is every day is now filled with those aha moments. And it's just so exciting to see students talking to you about real academic goals and being able to articulate things that you never knew that they could even think of.
It's opened up a whole new world for our students. The students have more opportunities to interact with each other besides the teacher directing everything. They have more choice in what they're doing, and so it's totally changed the way we teach.
I like about St. Albert that we could work with groups, we could work with partners, we could sit anywhere, and we could work with our friends to get all of the answers right. I like my classroom because we get to work in groups and we partner up and we work in teams and we get our sand chairs, we have beach chair, we have the mat. So when we work, we get comfortable in different spaces in the classroom.
The kids enjoy it. They love the seating assignments. They can work on computers, Chromebooks. So the autonomy that children are receiving through personalized learning is something that really registers with them.
Student-led conferences, it's not like your teacher will say, oh, well, she's doing good in this and this, but she needs to work on this. Like, you're telling your parents how you're doing and what you need to work on, and you're showing them your grades and you're showing them your Think Circuit grades, and you're just showing them what school is like for you.
Well, our personalized learning system, everyone has their own methods of learning, and so it's very the personalized learning expands all of that, so all of us have our own way to learn best, and so we could get to our full potential. We believe in grows and glows. Grows are things we need to grow in, we need to get better at. Well, glows is stuff that we realized off of our ACT scores that we already are good at.
We're trying to teach the kids that it's okay to fail. You know, the big thing with our kids that we're trying to get past is, am I gonna get an A on this? Is this gonna be graded? We're trying to get them to understand that this is a process where it's a learning process. And in order to learn, sometimes we have to fail. And that's okay. You didn't get it, and our big word in here is yet. Okay, you don't understand it? You will.
We usually have this PL plan, this personalized learning plan. We usually talk about our grades and how we're doing. If you're decreasing on a grade, she'll want to see you, and they will usually talk about it and how you can improve on your grades.
It is my tracking list, and I have to do stuff every day. And today I did read to a friend, writing, and word work, and listen to reading.
This is the future. This is how they're going to learn. This is how they're going to interact with each other, and they're going to work in the outside world. So this is the beginning of what they will do later in life. And they love it. They love the independence. I love that they are taking some ownership of their learning.
Not everyone in the class always has to do the same thing at the same time. So it's personalized, so you can do what you want when you want. So it's not always boring, I guess you could say.
The work that comes back when they take control of their own education, their own assignments, it's better than it ever has been in the past 16 years that I've been teaching.
So our next move is to realize that once our students have learned all the skills that we've worked with them on so far, that what they really need to do now is to start thinking about the world in general and how their critical thinking skills can have an impact on their communities and in the world at large.
You have to love the enthusiasm of both students and teachers at St. Albert the Great. Our final story is about the Chicago Choral Festival and Mass at Holy Name Cathedral. The event was presented by the American Federation of Pueri Cantores and featured more than a dozen Archdiocese of Chicago youth choirs. Videographer Michael May caught up with Paul French, choir director at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church and national president of Pueri Cantores.
Pueri Cantores is the student choral organization in the Catholic Church, and there are federations around the world
numbering some 40,000 young singers that sing in Pueri Cantores choirs. The German Federation is the largest, the American Federation is the second largest, and we've got some 400 Pueri Cantores choirs that sing in festivals. What we're doing here today is part of what happens in the United States, oftentimes in the fall and spring. This is the Archdiocese of Chicago's Regional Choral Festival. And we've got about 300 singers here from around the Archdiocese, but also some choirs have traveled here from Michigan and Ohio to be a part of what we're doing. We've got a wonderful guest conductor in Dr. Stephen Seigart from New York, and these children have spent all year preparing a choral repertoire to sing for this sacred liturgy. Pueri Cantores is about singing sacred choral music, but it goes even deeper than that. It really is about giving young people an experience of the treasures of the church, the musical treasures of the church, and essentially giving them a deeper language with which to praise God. And it really is not just about music, it's about catechesis. It allows young people the opportunity to grow deeper in their faith, have a closer relationship to the church and to God, and it's all through this of singing great music, both timeless Gregorian chant and compositions of our day. Coming together, these children meet other singers from other schools and other parishes. They get to know each other, and they look around and they say, wow, it's not just my parish or my school that's doing this. It really is more of a universal kind of appeal and approach. And to have all of these children and all of their parents and teachers and principals and pastors coming together today here at Holy Name Cathedral is really a remarkable experience for everyone.
A very uplifting way to wrap up our program. We close with a reminder that you can join me and other hosts on our local Catholic radio programs Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 in the morning on WNDZ 750 AM. Please tune in. Thanks for watching Sanctuary. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz. May the Lord bless you and hold you in the palm of His hand.